Hello everyone, welcome back. So sometimes Georgie and Mandy's first marriage hits you with something super relatable and then immediately turns around and makes it completely ridiculous. And honestly, that's exactly what happens in season 2, episode 15. The core problem in this episode is actually something a lot people can connect with. Cece can't sleep because she loses her favorite stuffed toy. And if you have been around kids, you know how real that is. That one toy becomes their entire world, and the moment it's gone, everything falls apart. That part of the episode feels grounded and authentic. It pulls you in because it's simple, emotional, and believable. But then Mimo gets involved, and second that happens, the story takes a hard turn into chaos. Now, don't get me wrong, Mimo is always entertaining. Annie Potts plays her with so much energy and personality that you can't look away. But her solution to the problem, selling the toy and turning the situation into some kind of a money-making scheme, that's where things get a little too silly. It's very on brand for Mima, especially when money is involved, but it also feels a bit heartless. Mary went through the effort of seeing that toy for CC, and somehow it ends up being sold off like it's just another product. That's the kind of moment where the show sacrifices emotional weight for comedy. At the same time, you kind of expect this behavior from Mima. You can't really leave her alone with anything without her coming up with some wild idea. And in a weird way, that unpredictability is part of what makes her fun to watch. The whole fake toy selling scheme is where the episode fully embraces its comedic side. Watching them try to pass off knockoffs in the same store that doesn't even have the original is just absurd, but it works because of how committed the characters are to the bit. And then you get moments like the customer being genuinely offended by the idea of fake version, which just adds another layer of humor. It's chaotic, it's over the top, but it's definitely gets some laugh. One of the best part of this whole storyline though is Dale's reaction. Even every time Mimo gets involved in something ridiculous, he's right there with that dry, sarcastic commentary. You can tell he knows exactly how stupid the situation is, and that makes it even funnier. There's also something interesting about seeing Mimo again in this setting, especially if you have recently watching Annie Potts in other roles. It takes a moment to readjust because she plays such a completely different character elsewhere. But once you settle back into it, Mimo feels exactly the same, chaotic, clever, and just a bit dangerous. Still, it would have been even better if Mary had found out about the whole scheme. That reaction alone could have taken the comedy to a whole another level. Hopefully, that's something the show saves for later. Out of all the silliness, though, the episode does something really important. It gives Connor a beautiful story, meaningful storyline, and honestly, that's long overdue. Connor is usually treated as a background character, the punchline of a joke, so seeing him get actual development is refreshing. His storyline with Chloe brings some emotional depth to the episode, especially because it shows growth. Instead of falling back into an old unhealthy relationship, he makes the difficult choice to move on. That's a big step for his character, even if the show hasn't consistently built up to it. It's also nice to see Audrey in more layered light here. She's often portrayed as controlling or overly critical, but moments like this remind you that it comes from a place of wanting to protect her son. She knows he is vulnerable and she's trying to shield him from getting hurt again. That doesn't always make her likable, but it does make her relatable. And that's really the balance this episode is trying to strike between over the top comedy and genuine grounded emotion. Sometimes it leans too far into the absurd, especially with Mimo's storyline, but it still manages to land some meaningful character moments. In the end, the episode is a mix of both worlds. You get relatable parenting struggle, a completely ridiculous solution, and a surprisingly strong character arc for Connor. So yeah, it might get a little silly, but it's also entertaining. And when it slows down, it actually has something real to say. So what do you think? Did Mimo's scheme go too far, or was it classic comedy gold? And do you want to see more focus on Connor and Audrey? Let me know in the comments. Thank you as always for watching. Bye.